You know that feeling when you're trying to get a straight answer from a big, complicated system and it just feels like you're lost in some impossible maze? Well, today we're going to dive right into that feeling. We're going to follow one person's 35-minute phone call into the heart of Canada's justice system, all to find an answer to what should have been a really, really simple question.
And there it is. That question, right there, just dripping with frustration, was asked during a call to a British Columbia court registry. It really gets to the heart of the confusion we're about to unpack. Who is actually in charge of what?
And this is what kicked the whole thing off. A totally straightforward question about a pretty common protective court order. You'd think getting an answer would be easy. Well, as it turns out, not so much.
So right out of the gate, the person on the phone just hits a brick wall of conflicting advice. This first part of their journey is honestly a masterclass in bureaucratic misdirection.
Okay, so the first piece of advice from the court clerk seems clear enough. Simple, right? Go to the police. That's step one, case closed. Except, not quite.
Literally, in the next breath, the same clerk adds another layer to the puzzle. Now, it's not just the police, it's also dealt with Crown. So, which is it? The police? The Crown? The confusion is already starting to build.
So let's just recap for a second. In the span of just a few minutes, the caller's been told to go to the police, then pointed toward the Crown, only to be told that the courts themselves only handle one specific part of it. It's the classic runaround. And believe me, the call has barely even started.
And it turns out, the problem wasn't just about finding the right person to talk to. It was about using the right words. The next big hurdle was the legal language itself, where one tiny little mistake was creating this massive misunderstanding.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. You see, the caller, based on what they'd found online, kept asking about filing a sworn application. But that one word, application, was basically the wrong key for this particular lock. It wasn't until a second, more experienced clerk got on the line that the correct term finally came out.
And boom, here it is. This is the light bulb moment. It's not an application that you as a citizen go and file. It's an information, a formal document that the Crown creates after they get a report from the police. This single distinction is the key that unlocks this whole process. It's not about you applying for something, it's about the Crown acting on information.
So with that one little bit of jargon finally cleared up, the real procedure starts to come into focus. After all that confusion, a clear step-by-step process was finally revealed. And here it is, the aha moment we've been waiting for. Step 1. A person makes a complaint to the RCMP. Step 2. The RCMP sends a report to Crown Counsel. Step 3. The Crown reviews it and creates that official document, the information. And finally, Step 4. That information is brought to the court to be sworn. That is the actual procedure.
Okay, so we've got the procedure down on paper. Looks simple enough, right? But as the caller quickly pointed out using a real-world case file, that neat little diagram and the messy reality of how things actually play out, well, they can be two very, very different things.
And this specific case file just shows how wide that gap can be, the gap between that clean four-step process and what actually happens on the ground.
By digging into this specific public case, the caller and the clerk started to uncover a total procedural maze, piecing the whole story together one document at a time.
All right, let's break this down because it's wild. On June 2nd, the accused person is ordered to show up to court for a criminal charge, uttering threats. Okay, but then on August 3rd, the official document that's actually filed at the courthouse is for a non-criminal peace bond. The person doesn't show up on their original court date, August 8th, and a warrant is issued for their arrest. So how on earth does that happen?
And this right here, this quote from the call nails the absolute core of the problem. What happened was, behind the scenes, Crown Counsel decided to downgrade the whole thing from a criminal charge to a non-criminal peace bond. But, and this is the crucial part, the accused was never formally told about this change. The court date was still on the books, but the entire legal reason for it had changed, which can lead to some disastrous consequences, like, a warrant for your arrest.
So, why is it so complicated? Why the runaround? Well, this chart is basically the answer. The whole justice system has this strict separation of powers. The RCMP investigates, Crown Counsel looks at the evidence and decides on charges, and the courts are the ones who actually hear the case and make orders. The caller was bounced between them because no single one of them has the whole story. Each one is just holding one piece of the puzzle.
So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? Let's zoom out for a second and look at why this frustrating journey for a simple answer really, truly matters.
If you go to the government website, the definition of a peace bond is perfectly simple. It's a court order, you don't need a conviction, it sets conditions, and if you break it, that's a crime. It sounds so clear, so straightforward. But as we've just seen, trying to connect that simple definition to the complex, messy reality of the process, that is incredibly difficult for the average person.
I mean, really think about it. We just walked through a 35-minute phone call, a call that bounced between different people, different departments, different legal terms, all just to understand the very first step of a common legal procedure. It leaves us with a pretty big question. If the path to just understanding the system is this difficult, can we really say that justice is accessible to everyone?